Okay, that being said, let's run a GTmetrix scan. So we're going to use the run GTmetrix scan. So this uses API credits. I'm going to just do it. And once more, it will run off and do this all automatically for you. It will come up with a legend, explain what some of the things mean, because it actually lists a number of items, a number of measures, and we've got a link to the full report, which we'll cover in a moment. We have PSS, which is the page speed score. We have YSS, which is the Y slow score. PLT, which is the overall page load time. We have the number of page bytes, the number of page elements, and of course the HTML load time and the number of HTML bytes. Now, as each site is checked, remember this is live, so it will take a little while because I actually have to go in and scan these sites. And I said we'll cover this in a little bit more detail in a moment, but it will come up and give you a link to the report. It will give you a percentage score for both the Google PageSpeed and the Yahoo YSlow, and the actual page load time here in milliseconds, etc. And of course, the actual time of the date of the scans, will be the server time, by the way, will be listed. And the reason we've got that is because we can run back these results. We've done it so we don't have to use up API keys every time we want to check the results. So that's those sites completed now. So as I said, we can now go back and I can actually run what we call historical results. In other words, it will run the last results for us. This doesn't cost any API keys, so we just run on the same 4 and you'll see what happens. And it comes back pretty instantaneously. This time it all puts it into one neat table for us. Again, we have the legend up here explaining what each of these titles are. And we'll get the name of the site that we've actually tested. We will get a percentage score, as I say, for the Yahoo and the Google measures. We will get the actual site load times, etc., and the HTML load times, and the actual date that this was date and time that these were actually done. So if you go back tomorrow or next week and look at these, we know exactly when the measures were taken. Now this is just a overall view or a summary view, if you like, but we can get into real detail with these by going to the report. So I click the report link, and of course that now brings up the actual full GTmetrix report. And in here we have a huge amount of information. In fact, I'm not going to go through it all in the video because it's just too much. You need to sit down and kind of go through it yourself a bit and read through. It's very self-explanatory, and there's lots of information in here for you to go through. So let's just have a look. We've got the name of the site that we've tested. We got our page speed from Google and the YSlow grade from Yahoo. And then down here we can actually look at the various recommendations. So in this section we've got page speed, and it's set, in other words, the one at the top of the form is the kind of most important. So the things that can be changed to improve are near the top, and the ones of less importance or less change required are down the bottom. So it explains all this here. It says I've got my scores, what now? So you can read through that. And each of these you can go through. Let's say it says specify image dimensions. It's obviously in the red there, so looking as a high priority. So if we click that, it will actually tell us specifically what we can do. This one explains that. In this particular case, we've got some page add pings. They've got dimensions. And it says you should actually specify those dimensions in there, and it'll make them load faster if the HTML doesn't have to guess or work out how big that image is. If it knows how big it is in the first place, it can load the images faster, and it's one of the ways of getting images to load faster, and hence your page to load faster. And say it'll tell you the exact images and the sizes, etc., that you can work on. And this is the same with all of the information in these recommendations. They drop down, and it will tell you exactly what you can do to improve your page speed. Okay, so that is page speed, and it's kind of a generic term, page speed, but page speed is actually the kind of brand name for the Google measure, and YSlow is the brand name for the Yahoo measure, but they're both measuring a very similar process, but you will get different results from each. So obviously you need to look at both of them. You can also get a actual timeline of your page load, so you can actually look down here and see exactly what loaded and how long it took and in what order it was loaded, etc. And over here you can open these up and get very specific information on that as well. So again, you can find your slow loading images and your pages that are holding you up, and kind of work on those to improve your page speed. And finally, you can get a history graph, and this will give you other ideas of any changes or improvements over the time of each of the measures. Now, the only thing I would say to this is with the free account, I think they only hold this information for 30 days. But again, if you do have a page that's not performing well and you start doing some changes to it and then test it, you can then check over a period of a month those improvements. That should be 30 days should be enough to be able to see the improvements that you'll be making. Okay, and if you want to take that away, by the way, to say these reports only stay up for a certain amount of time online, but you can take the PDF and download it yourself. Just click on the link there and you'll download a PDF. And as you see, you can take the regular report or the full report, which includes all the recommendations data. So really useful, and as I say, you can take that offline and then you can keep that for as long as you like. Okay, if you have installed the Gmetrics plugin, you can use the link here to the Gmetrics plugin dashboard, and you can jump directly to that. And you can see that's opened up, in this case, 4 tabs, and each of the tabs is the dashboard for each of the sites that we're looking at. So this is the dashboard for the GTmetrix. Now, at the moment, you can't see anything in here because, as I said, from within WPP, we actually talk directly to the GTmetrix site. We do not use the plugin, so you won't see a history in here. If you want to look in here, you need to test directly in here if you want to keep your results in here. Now, of course, these will store in your own local database, so they'll store as long as you like. And up here, you can just do a quick test, which tests your front page. I'll just give that a click now. You'll see what happens and go through and take a few seconds to run the actual GTmetrix test and bring that up for us here. And when that test finishes, you'll see, similar to what we looked at before, we can now see the information in here. And if we look down here, it'll actually bring up a list of reports. So as each report is done, it will give you it one under the other from here. And of course, from here, you can look at the detailed reports. Again, as we did before, and it'll take you off to the website with the detailed reports in. Or down here, you can actually open up information down here, and again, you can look at the detailed reports, pull the PDF, etc. Now, say that just tests the main page of your site, but if you want to test inner pages or alternate pages, then you can simply type the URL that you want into there and use a test URL, and that will go off and check specifically for the page load for that URL. And of course, in here you can actually change the source of where it's measured. So this by default is Vancouver, Canada. You can London, Sydney, Dallas, etc. And of course, if you compare tests, so if I just go back now to pipeline, and once more, I'll just run the GTmetrix historical report. So that takes a few seconds because we've already run that one and it doesn't cost us any credits. But what we can do here, we can actually compare all the different sites. So especially if these are on different servers or in different locations, you can start to get an idea of whether there's problems. If we're looking here and we've got fairly consistently kind of nearly 5 seconds, 3.5 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. So those aren't wildly different, which is not probably a great surprise because they're probably all on the same server. So that's kind of some idea of the load speed. Now remember, of course, that may depend on the size of your page and the amount of HTML and everything else that's on your page. So you may get some variations for individual pages, but this will give you a good idea if there are any server end problems, because remember, the content of your web page is only 1/2 of the formula, if you like, that decides on your speed of actual loading your pages. The other half is the server itself, and most of the time if you've got a server slowing down, you'll be able to see all your sites on that server slowing down. So this is a good way of being able to identify that. Okay, enough of the GTmetrix. So that's looking at the actual page load. So we're looking at the overall page load, which includes things like the images and the text, etc., etc. But because we're specifically in WordPress now, we want to kind of analyze the WordPress side of it. And to do that, we use this P3 profiler.